Okay, so the next step of this project is to create our unrolled building file. As you see here in the example I put together, it's very clearly labeled so that everything's uniformed and like the previous assignment. And then you'll notice that all four along the horizontal fold of the page would be our elevations. The top one, it would be the top view, and the bottom one is the bottom view. You'll also see that we're going to be integrating scale figures into this. And I included all of these scale figures in a template that you can find in Dropbox. I'm sorry, I think I'm losing my voice, so I'll definitely need to put the closed captions on this video. But yeah, you can go into the new Dropbox folder, go to templates, and then just download the Project to Enrolled Building template for that. I also have another InDesign template to be a little bit more specific with the labels and whatnot. So feel free to download that as well. Very similar to the previous template that you downloaded, except it just has a few added labels to prevent any type of uh, confusion or, unattractive um, text options. Okay, so let's just dive into our main model first. So this is what you just completed. And that unrolled drawing, we're basically taking our final model. And this final model, that's where you unpacked each of your spaces. You made certain punches through the whole building, joining each section or separating sections. This is your most intentional model. And so this is the highlight of your conceptualizing space. Okay. If you have any further questions about that, please reach out. Um, yeah, I know in the previous project we weren't focusing on creating spaces for people. This project is completely occupiable spaces. All right, so let's grab just one of these cubes and we're going to do a simple copy on the keyboard so that it can copy to clipboard. And then we're going to open that template and we're just going to place it right here. All right, so press Z for zoom, E extends. So I know that it pushed my model all the way over here. So all I'm going to do is using my gumball tool, drag it down. If your gumball tool is not on, just type in gumball in your command bar and you can ask it to be on, off, or toggle. All right. So for this unrolled model, I really don't need to work in the full 40 by 40 foot, one-to-one scale. It might be easier and it might be better for, some of those laptops that have been trying extra hard to cooperate, if these models are made smaller. So what I'm going to do is draw a line just like we did for the previous boards, and I'm going to make this 5 inches so that it goes back down to the original 5 by 5 cube. All right, but if you see, I'm actually working in a half scale. So let's just scale this down one more time. I'm just going to type scale and then click center and then divide it in half. And now you can see, just to test it, that it's perfectly aligned with the box grid that we need. Okay. So in perspective, I'm going to just change it to perspective. You could double click here to go, to look at all your quadrants. I'm going to take this model and I'm going to make sure that it's very close to the plane right here so it's not lost. And I am going to duplicate it in such a way that it follows this layout to avoid any type of confusion. Again, as you saw in the layout, we're keeping our front faces all on the same horizontal line, top on its own, bottom on its own. So let's lay that out right here. All right, so we're going to orient it so that we can see everything from the top view. So the first thing I'm going to do in perspective is rotate this gumball -90 degrees so that my front view is visible from the plan. Okay, so one by one, you're going to rotate these. So now if this is my front elevation here, I should see that face on this left side, which I do. So that means that it was properly rotated. And we're going to continue that. Instead of -90 here, I'm going to just do regular 90. All right, and then one more. Okay, so everyone's model is a bit different. I know a few of you had to focus on building out your cube a little bit more, just so that it maintains a general cube layout and fits nicely into the space. So I hope that no one's having trouble on that. No one's reached out otherwise. Um, so yeah, now I'm going to copy this for the top view. And instead of the green arch or arc in the gumball, I'm going to use the red one. And so I'm going to rotate this 90. And so this face right here should be the same as this face. I'll just draw so you can see this face right here. All right, so you see this curve that I just made that it's not letting me select. It should basically be this face. All right, and that is good. Now let me just copy one more, and this is going to be the bottom face. Again, we're going to turn it at the red, and we're going to go -90. All right, so now we know that this is going to be translated into that. All right. One thing that's unique in this assignment is that we're doing both rendered views and outlines. So the outlines are basically our line drafting drawings, where you learned how to do different line weights to show depth. But then in addition to the line weights showing depth and things that are hidden, we're going to do this shaded Arctic view. This way you can have a little bit more sense of three-dimensionality, and some comfort with the perspective. And um, perspective is probably not the best word, but the shading gives us the impression that there's more depth. All right, so it's not important for this to perfectly line up just yet. We're gonna copy them over one by one. But what I would love to do is a Boolean union, just in case. I just want to limit the amount of poly surfaces I'm looking at. All right, and then I also can delete all of these curves. So I'm doing select curve. Select closed curve came up first, that's fine. Deselect the curves that we're keeping. So I just pressed Control and I drew a window over the things that I'm keeping. And I pressed delete. All right, so now I just want to do a general select curve. And I want to make sure that none of these are included. And you see I have some straggling curves in here. So those are now deleted. Great. All right, so next step is to go into the top view. And we're going to make this 2D. All right, so group output, that's fine. By output layers, yes. View, it's good because I'm in the top view, and then hidden lines, perfect. All right, and so these are all my line drawings that I'm going to eventually copy over. Now, one thing I really want us to also do is ensure that we are going to have depth in our drawings. So if you downloaded my template, you'll see that I added this one layer called front. And so that's going to be the face that's closest to us. It's going to have a different line weight. And you can see that here with the print width. So the print width is the same thing as the line weight, the pressure that you're putting on the line drawing. And so I just changed that to 0.5. Again, if you download my file, you should already have these settings. All right, it's just blue in model space, but it's black in the print color. Okay, so now I'm going to write dupe face border. And so I'm going to make an outline of all the front faces that I have in my model. All right, so just keep clicking anything that's in the front face. All right, it looks like I captured everything. And then I press enter. And you see that it basically made 2D. And it's only the outlines of that face. Before I deselect anything, I'm going to keep the yellow selection on. Then I'm going to click this front layer, right click, change object layer. Okay, so now you see this blue line around the face. All right, so I'm going to select those objects again, and then I'm actually going to just move that over to the Make 2D drawing. All right, so now we go step by step moving these line drawings into our boxes. All right, so move. When you move, I can't stress this enough. It's very important to make sure that your O snaps are on and that before you click anything, when you click move and it asks you to pick the point to move from, you need to see that it's an end point from your O snaps. And you see that little tab that popped up. That's how you know. All right, so we're just gonna keep copying. It's the same general layout, but I didn't make it exacting before, and I don't think you need to waste your time doing that either. So this is just faster to propagate the page. All right, it's important to note that these orange guidelines are not going to, we're going to turn that off so that it's not seen when we're exporting this. It's basically just there as a guideline right now. All right, so if I were to export this drawing, I'd want to turn off that orange layer and just plot it just like that. Okay. Um, but before we do that, I also want us to copy over our boxes, our models itself to this layout. So instead of move, I'm going to type in copy. And again, we're picking points. You see the little tab where it shows end, comma, int for intersection. Click that point and one by one place it on the sheet. All right, some of you might not have that corner that I'm clicking. Find a good reference point so that you're placing it properly within the box. It could be the top corner, left corner, right corner, it could be the midpoint. As long as it's consistent and you know that it's being properly placed within the boundary. All right, and last one. All right, so now let me go back to top view. And this time I'm going to change my viewport settings to Arctic. So now you see there's a nice little shade in the background, and you can really see the depth of the lines, of the surfaces. All right, I'm turning off that guideline to avoid any type of confusion. All right, so this is a little bit more taxing on your computer, so just make sure that all your other programs are closed before you go into this view if your computer has been giving you trouble lately. All right, so now what I want to do is export the lines, and then I'm going to export this image. So file, export selected, just like the previous project, we're going to make it a PDF. And general lines tutorial. All right, so our settings, it should be extents, tabloid, landscape. It's 1:1 full scale because we already scaled it in Rhino. All right, so now I press OK. And then here, I just make sure that I view capture. I view this port to capture. Okay, so right now it has a transparent background. I do not want a transparent background for this specific assignment. I would like it to have the white or gray frosted look to it. It technically still exists with the transparent background. I just think it's probably easier to read with it on. All right, and my resolution is going to be by viewport so that I can see everything. All right, and then I press OK. All right, so now I have these two views, and I'm going to go into InDesign. All right, so make sure you have it opened. Adjust it as you need. For me, I don't like doing anything in full screen, but that's just a personal choice. And so you're downloading this new template from the same location. Unrolled cube example is the newest one. And so first thing you want to do is go into your parent page and change your name. And I know some of you had some issues with that rectangle. When you zoom in, that's when you see the detail. All right. In this template, I would like for you not to touch anything else. Just because it's set up nicely for you. All right. I'm just adjusting my windows here. All right. So now I'm going into page one, the true page one. So you notice I can't click anything. All right. I just have all the boundaries that I need. So now I'm going to do Control D or File Place. By file, I mean click the File tab and then go to Place, which you see is also Control D. And the first thing I'm going to do is drop in my lines. All right, that should be pretty straightforward because we drew it on a template in Rhino. So that should be pretty exacting. And so when you press Shift W, this is our layout. I actually think that these dimension lines are pretty huge, so I am going to modify that really quickly. Let's just get that over with. All right. I know I went over changing the dimensions in previous videos, so I'm not going to make it too crazy. All right, apply. Let's see, is that more reasonable? It does feel more reasonable, but I still think it might be too big. All right, edit style. I'm going to do that again. 125. All right, that should be better. So, what's unique about these specific dimensions is that it is our reduced scale. because these are, 2.5 inches tall. The actual physical model that we're making is 5 inches tall, but in reality, it's 8 times that 5 inch model. So, um, our 5 inch model is an eighth of the scale. This unrolled model is a 16th. Um, so in reality, this 2.5 inch height reflects the 40-foot tall building that we're creating for occupants. All right. If we still have any questions about scale or understanding scale, we can do that. We can go over that in class. But yeah, let me just re-export this file, export selected, enrolled lines, and I'm just going to replace it. Press print. This way it automatically corrects the file if you already loaded it. I guess I deleted mine so it didn't auto correct, but that's all right. All right, so now that our dimension lines are a little bit, more appropriate, now we're going to import our drawing, our picture, I mean. So Control D or File Place, and our new tutorial image is right here. And this one is a little bit more complicated, only because you have to play with the scale, and I'm not sure how comfortable everyone is with the concept of scaling in InDesign yet. But first thing I need you to do is right click that, arrange it, and send it to the back. This way the image itself is underneath the line drawing. So it looks like we just outlined it. And then gradually you're going to press Shift and Control the same time to extend or to scale up the size of our models. All right, it's a little bit of a process. You can use your arrows on your keyboard to just shift it into place. What I sometimes like to do for these specific things is change the view display performance to high quality. I'm not sure if yours is going to be on high quality by default, but it does help with not having too pixelated of an object. All right, so let's just look around. I know it's not going to be perfect. We're going to try and get it as close to perfect as we can. All right, make sure that when you're moving this around, you're moving the right drawing. Because I just, instead of moving the art, um, I moved the line drawing. So let me just lock this by pressing Control L for lock, and now I can freely move my image. And it won't accidentally move my lines, which is exactly what I wanted. All right, so you see we're just going back and forth, trying to get it as close as possible. If you have a little sliver of, you know, of the shaded model that's coming through, I think you'll be all right. Just, don't get too crazy with not matching this up well. All right, so now we see that we had this inserted. We have our line drawings here. I'm just going to press Shift W to see how it really looks. And yes, so we have our top view, front view, bottom view, left, right, rear. So this is the general requirement, but now I want you all to add scale figures. So now that we have this installed, just make sure that you do File Save As. All right, tutorial example is what I need to mine. So go back here, and change this to a wireframe view. And if you just pan over to the right, you'll see that I made a bunch of scale figures for you to use. You don't have to use these scale figures if you don't want to. I just don't want you to spend too much time getting scale figures. Um, yeah, sorry. So let's just copy some of these people over. And so copying, pick a point, and use the smaller scale one because again, we're working in the 16th of an inch. And just start placing these scale figures in your elevations. Show how they're going to be sitting. Remember, it should be interacting with the blue line because that's showing our section cut. And that's why we did that dupe surface border. All right, so I could have people sitting on a ledge. I could have them, looking up at a high ceiling. All wonderful things. All right, so once you have your people added, select the object again, File, Export Selected, and all you're going to do is click the same exact drawing. Make sure that you do not move the location or change the name. Click the same exact drawing, press Replace, allow these settings, and you'll see this little yellow arrow here. Sorry, this little yellow triangle. That means that the link has changed. So I just clicked the little arrow to relink it. Okay. So now if I press Shift W to see the full view, you can see my little scale figures that are now propagating the building. All right. So next step is to export this, of course. All right, simple settings, page 1. All right, and then super important, you all need to start packaging your files because I'm seeing a lot of missing links when I see your computer. So whenever you're, done importing your images, please go File, Package. If you're packaging this, you cannot save it on iCloud because if you're not saving your images on, not iCloud, sorry, Creative Cloud, if you're not saving your images on Creative Cloud, then you're not helping yourself. So just save it on your computer in a designated location. This will help you make a folder to compile everything. All right, so make sure that these settings are all picked. So it saves all of your images, all your fonts, everything. And it's just gonna take that file and add the name folder. All right, just because it's creating a new folder. So press package. And the cool thing there is that once you do have that packaged, it's going to have the document fonts, the links, which are each of the images and PDFs that were inserted. It's going to have the new version of InDesign, the old version of InDesign, and an exported PDF. Okay. So we really shouldn't see this black border. So let's just make sure that we delete that from your imports. And after this, you're going to drop it on your student uploads folder in Dropbox. So student uploads, an example, project 2, and I'm going to drop this in here just so you could see it. Okay. And I already dropped it in Miro. So everyone, I need you to drop all your work in Miro. That's how I'm going to add little, I'm going to be adding my feedback there because we don't have class again on Tuesday. It's running as a Monday schedule. So this is the best way for me to give you solid feedback. Um, dropping little scale figures in in your spaces. So please have that uploaded, just so we can get the best out of our spaces as possible, with our limited time. All right, if you have any questions, please send me an email. Otherwise, please just follow the video closely. And Hopefully you don't run into any issues. All right. Thank you so much.